All right, so I can't seem to get it to go to my Ag Talk and Raw. So you're just gonna have to deal with it on One Lonely Farmer. Yep. So this is an Ag Talk and Raw video on One Lonely Farmer. Not too much politics, just stuff. Good morning and welcome to Ag Talk and Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things. Okay, so I haven't done one of these in a while. I've been pretty busy doing things that maybe I'd much rather not be doing. I think my glasses, I sat on my glasses and bent them. Yeah, they're titanium too, and they actually bent, but they didn't normally have that glare. But anyways, whatever. So I was watching The Grumpy Farmer here, and this is a subject that I've been wanting to talk about, but mostly farmers watch this show anyway, but it's something that we all know, and maybe you could share it around Facebook and other things, because I'm going to do this in a way that I'm not using foul language, even though it's really hard not to use foul language. So yesterday, we'll start with yesterday. I'm watching Grumpy Farmer's video right now. It's called Ian Left Us. I don't know who Ian is, and I haven't gotten through the whole video, but I got to the point where he was talking about the USDa. So yesterday, I got a phone call from a property owner, and he made the mistake of asking how things were going, And I says, well, things are pretty rough for farmers around the world, not just the country, but around the world, because whether you like it or not, the United States really sets the pace for what grain is sold for around the world. It does. We are the breadbasket of the world. Whether you want to say that, whether you want to agree with me or not, we can produce more grain, beef, poultry, and pork than any other country in the world. We can. We're a very large country, and we know how to get shit done. Oh, first curse word. Sorry about that. But we have great obstacles, and these obstacles also include the United States Department of Agriculture, our government, which is supposed to work with us and for us to see to it that our food supply is plentiful and clean and healthy, which the United States Department of Agriculture, the Food and Drug Administration have been failing miserably now for about 40 years, in total, but it's really gotten bad in the last 4 years. So we can talk about this phone call. I told him, I said, farming is really bad for everybody right now. We're struggling to pay bills. Price of parts and lubricants and fuel have gone through the roof. And his response was, well, I didn't vote for this guy. He said, I didn't vote for this guy, so I'm really sorry that he didn't win, or she didn't win. I said, well, it didn't start in January. I said, this is a 4 or 5 year thing. I said, started with COVID. When COVID happened, prices were okay. Input costs were low. So say 2020, input costs were low. We were paying $1.45 for off-road diesel fuel. We were paying, $8 a gallon for glyphosate. But you can fast forward to 2021. See, 2021. Yeah, 2021, diesel fuel climbed. It was no longer $1.40 to $1.60. It was a couple dollars a gallon for diesel fuel. And 2022, we reached the $3 a gallon off-road diesel fuel price. We had $65 glyphosate, and our chemicals were stupid expensive because of the so-called supply chain issues. It's not a supply chain issue. It's a supply issue. You see, we used to make that stuff here in this country, and then we farmed it out to countries that are an ocean away in each direction, and it's supposed to get here, but because of so-called COVID or the pandemic, which was designed to get Donald Trump unelected, out of office and other things that happened, but that's just neither here nor there, because, it'll be 50 years and I'll be dead before they come out with the truth of these matters. I might be dead. I might not be dead. Who knows? I might live to 100. Who knows? I doubt it. But anyway, I would like to if I was healthy. If I'm miserable and a vegetable, I just would rather die. So, anyways, we talked about this, and he says, well, there ought to be something to be done about, you should call the government. Call the government. I said, the government's the problem. I said, they set the prices. He says, well, how do they set the prices? It's a supply-demand thing. I said, well, yeah, it's supply-demand. But when you alter the supply and the demand to meet the narrative, which the narrative is cheap food, right? Well, why do we want cheap food? Because everything else got really expensive, right? Everything. You can't buy a house. You can't buy a new car. You can't afford to fix what you've got. You can't afford, to do anything because everything has gotten so stupid expensive. And I will explain or tell you exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to maintaining equipment. So, Teresa's tractor, the 8530, takes 47 gallons of, well, you're not naked, are you?
I'm not naked.
You're a distraction.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Anyway, Teresa's tractor takes 47 gallons of hydraulic oil.
47 gallons?
47 gallons of hydraulic high-tran oil. That drum of high-tran oil is not quite $1,200 for the high-tran oil. The filters for the high-tran, the transmission and hydraulic oils are about $300 to replace all the filters. There's a fair few of them in there. The engine oil, which used to be about $800 a drum, $750, $800 a drum, is now $1,350 a drum. Right? Was it $800? Yeah, $1,350 a drum. $700 to $800. Say $1,350. Almost double what a drum of oil was. Now that tractor takes 8 gallons of engine oil, but it's got filters, the fuel filters and the engine oil filters, the hydraulic filters, cab air filters, inner and outer engine air filters. By the time I was done doing a fluid and filter change on that tractor, was over $2,200. $2,200 for that one tractor. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 6 years ago, let's say 6 years ago, under Donald J. Trump, the first term, I could do that for, I don't know, 15, 12, 15, almost half of what it was today. And the crazy thing is that diesel fuel is now almost triple, 2.5 times. Yeah, 140, 280. We're at $3 and some cents a gallon for that. $3.30 a gallon, $3.28 a gallon right now. Due to direct, involvement in the Biden administration. And they claim they're pumping more fuel than ever. Some guy came on and said, "Oh, we're pumping more crude than ever. The demand is higher." Get the hell out of here. He stopped drilling in the exploration. Which when you stop exploration, that changes things. It's not like they're opening new wells. It's like this lull. They would issue the permits to do the or they wouldn't issue the permits, but whatever. It was some nonsense. So we have the higher prices. Now, prices have come down, right? Prices of fuel are still up. They haven't come down any. But the prices of, say, glyphosate, seed prices have gone up again this year, $5 to $8 a bag for seed corn more. Soybean seed is up another $5 a bag or a unit. What do they say? 140,000 seeds per unit or so. It could be a 45-pound bag. It could be a 62-pound bag, depending on the seed size for soybeans. But yet, it's up. But the price is down, right? Fertilizer is up over last year, but the price is down over last year. So, yes, we received the highest prices on record for our crops in 2020 and 2021, right? or was it 2021 and 2022? Anyways, in there, the highest record, but we had the highest record inputs to go into those to grow those crops. Just equipment has exploded in price. Everything has gone up in price. But now the grain price has come down along with the herbicide price. That's really the only thing that's going to be cheaper in our operation is the herbicide. And there's a big attack on that anyway because, you know, Roundup bad, even though the whole world revolves around glyphosate. And if it was so horrible for your health, it would not be in Walmart and Tesco or wherever the heck you live in the world as a weed killer, common used weed killer that doesn't take a pesticide purchasing application license to obtain. So how bad is it? You know, I mean, people are taking baths in this stuff on a daily basis because they have zero training on, you know, how to handle this stuff. So the other thing, and now I'm going to get to, you know, of course, the property owner that I was talking to, he's like, well, you ought to go to the state and, you know, they do farmland preservation. And what happens if I don't do my, you know, if I don't have anybody to farm my land? Well, there will always be somebody willing to go out and make cheap grass hay or something like that off of your land. You know, it's just if I go broke and have to fold up shop, you know, there'll be somebody else that's willing to do it, or you'll have to mow it. You'll be allowed to do that for a while. You have to maintain it. He said, well, what if I can't even get that? Do I have to do it myself? I was like, well, yeah, you could do it yourself, or you pay the fine. He says, well, that's wrong. They want all this farmland preserved. I said, yeah, farmland preservation. It's not farmer preservation. And that brings me to the grumpy farmer, Andy. Andy's he's grumpy sometimes, too grumpy for me. I mean, I like Andy. I think he's got a lot of good information, but he should be put a little bigger smile on his face. It's not all doom and gloom. You know, I feel like it is at times as well, but I love Andy. He's a good guy. But anyway, he's talking about this last year, election year. Now, we all know that things get tampered with by the current administration when they're clawing on to, am I going to get reelected or not, you know? And that's really, or is my party going to maintain the power that we so desperately need to dominate the world, you know, that kind of a thing? Well, they did fudge with the numbers. We knew they fudged with the numbers, you know, me and probably Andy and every other YouTube farmer around the world. And the reason we know is because we talk to everybody around the world. I talk to people in Norway. I talk to people in Nova Scotia. I talk to people in England. I talk to people in Ireland. I talk to people in France. I talk to people in Australia. I talk to people all over the world, and they're all like, I don't know where all this grain is supposed to come from because we're in, you know, things aren't great. I don't talk to too many people in South America, but I do watch RFD TV once in a while with my dad because, you know, he'll have it on and I'll go and I'll catch a glimpse of it. And last year they had disastrous crops. And but anyway, that being said, our lovely U.S. Department of Agriculture came out and said that we had record high corn and soybean yields and, you know, record high. We set new records for corn and soybean yields. And with that, the price of grain went down. Now, fortunately, on my soybeans, I had contracted 90% of them at above 1175, I think was the lowest I got. But I did have some over 12. I think I did 5,000 bushels at over $12 a bushel. Okay, so that was pretty good. Right now it's 9 something, right? 9 something. So that's a $3 loss. Well, what Andy has been talking about in his video, Ian left us, which I'm going to finish when I'm done here, is what he's talking about is that they had to reassess what they had previously said on the record-setting yield, and he did it on corn. He didn't say anything about soybeans, but it's all relevant, you know. So they lowered the average yield in the United States 4 bushels or 4 point some bushels to the acre. We'll just use 4 bushels for this video. Now, they planted, or we, the U.S. farmer, planted 40 million acres of, or 90 million acres of corn last year, or somewhere in there. 90 million acres of corn. All right. So in his video, he didn't do the math, and I'm not going to do the math either. But if you take 4 point some bushel on 90 million acres, let's just say 1 bushel, 90, 2 bushels, 90 million, 180 million, which then would be 360 million bushels of corn. 360 million bushels of corn that they set the price on. And how did they set the price? By overestimating what we produced. That means that, hey, there's going to be a hell of a supply. We don't need to pay as much for this grain because they got more of it. And we can just, because they got more of it, we don't have to pay as much for it. And we can keep their income at a level, flat level. Well, I produced somewhere around 100,000 bushels of corn this year, right? And it lowered the price $1 because we got as low as $4.30 a bushel. I was fortunate enough that I was able to contract $4.60 for like 30,000 bushels or so. Maybe how many thousand bushels did I do? I think I did 60,000. Well, anyways, it doesn't even matter how many bushels I did. But they took $1, right? They took $1 out of my pocket for this overestimation of grain yield. Let's just say for every bushel that I produced, I lost $1. Say I lost $100,000 because of some guy in Washington saying, well, we need cheaper food. We can fudge this number by 4 bushels, tell everybody we've got a bumper crop, and then we'll lower that price by 75 to $1 a bushel for the fall harvest. And then, after the harvest, then we'll say, oh, by the way, we made a mistake. The new numbers came in, and then it'll creep up. Well, yes, it has creeped up, but it didn't start to creep up until after the tariffs got applied to China and the rest of the world, which then got delayed, and now China's fighting with us and all this other stuff, which is a big wake-up call, in my opinion, that we rely so much. The U.S. population shouldn't be fighting with Donald Trump. They should be waking up every morning and saying, why are we so dependent on a country that is on the other side of the world, that is A, communist, B, doesn't give a shit about its people, excuse my language, and C, they just don't care about us either. The only thing they care about is getting money to build a military to eventually start a big-ass war. That's what it's going to be. So wake up in the morning and say, why are we so dependent? I've been saying this for 20 years. Why are we becoming so uberly dependent on China? I mean, everything from these earmuffs to this Western digital. I think this is made in China. Everything. No, Thailand, close neighbor, China. This telephone, oh yeah, it's Apple products, made in China. My Apple computer that I'm working on right now was made in China, and that was 2012. These things, can't make these here. This just, USB cables. I think this is for I think that's for the Sony Handycam. China, everything's China. Sony was Japanese. It's not Japanese anymore. China now holds the camera stuff, all the camera stuff. DJI, that's a DJI. Some of the best cameras in the world used to be made in Japan. They were great cameras. When you're watching Godzilla and the Japanese guy's running down the street looking over his shoulder, he's got a Canon or a Nikon or an Olympus. China, or it's all China now. Everything, well, Olympus is done. They're only making microscopes and medical equipment now. They stopped with the camera division. I don't know about Nikon, if they're even in business anymore, but now DJI, all China. So now we're so dependent on China, and, the world is like, bad Donald Trump, bad Donald Trump. He's just exposing to you the lopsidedness in the trade. Now, Andy calls Biden pudding brain. I just call him a cadaver. That's all he was. He was a dead body that they propped up and had puppet strings on him. I said that for 4 years of his presidency. He didn't do anything. Other people did. You know, did you hear about the auto pen? Auto pen? So Biden's on a beach in, you know, wherever, Virginia or Delaware, and people are signing bills into law with an auto pen. Well, he's like this, dead on a beach. You know, it was weekend at Bernie's every weekend with that guy in the summertime. But somebody was using the auto pen. You know, you're supposed to make a phone call and say, "Hey, Mr. President, this is what we got to do. Do I have permission to use the auto pen?" That's what he was. He's a cadaver. His name was Bernie. You know, it wasn't Biden. It was Bernie, the dead body. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. It's Weekend at Bernie's. These two guys that carried around a dead body for a weekend. You know, when they made 2 movies of it. I haven't seen it in 40 years, but 30 years anyway. But it was basically Joe Biden's presidency was Weekend at Bernie's for 4 years. So anyway, so they fudge the numbers, they lower the price, and we have to pay. We have to pay it. So Andy was talking about the new government program and the subsidy that they're supposed to be giving out. It's called ECAP. So ECAP goes on, it doesn't go on bushels produced. It goes on, thankfully, because we had a drought here for the last 3 years in a row, and I'm really head shy about putting anything out. But anyway, 3 years in a row, we've had a drought, and we're going to do this ECAP, and it goes on acres. Acres of soybeans, I think acres of soybean is almost $40, and an acre of corn, they're going to pay you like $40 or $41 for corn. They said sign up and everything will be good. Well, it's not that simple because they changed the rules halfway through. Like, hey, we don't require this. Now they're requiring something. And now there's something which is a pain in the ass for me because my handwriting is awful and my spray record, I have to come up with spray records. Well, if I give them my spray records that are in my handwriting, I would have to explain to them what exactly it is. It's just basically dates and, you know, you're in a hurry, you're scribbling it on there. So I have to redo this. I have to put it, I got to put it on, I got to put it on the computer so that I get my dates right. So I got to go back and do my dates and per field, what day I did it and what crop what crop was there and what herbicide that I used, and that will work. And then they will be able to so-called release the funds to me. So I have to do that, and it has to be done because I should do it anyway because my handwriting's sloppy. I should take the iPad with me and then type it in on notes, and then I would have it before I even go to the field. So many quarts, so many pints, so many ounces, you know, and what date and what field it was and what crop it was to be sprayed, and that's all that it says. And I'm a little lax sometimes. I won't do it every day, and then I go back and I sit in the tractor. I'm like, oh shit, well, I'm waiting for it to agitate at the edge of the field. I'm like, all right, I better do this because if I don't, I'm not going to have it. And if somebody comes along and yells at me, then I can present it to them, and they can decipher it. But now I have to send it to the USDA. So yeah, that's the deal. So many acres of corn, so many acres of soybeans, so much money, and they're only going to pay 85% of it anyway. Well, why is 85%? Why not the full 100% of it? They say so, and this is the other bullshit thing, right? Oh, we're going to give you $40 for corn, $41 for corn, and $39 for beans. Okay, cool. I had X number of acres of corn. I had X number of acres of soybeans. Excellent. I'm going to get X number of dollars. Now we're only going to give you 85%. Well, then say you're only going to give us $33 for beans and $34.50 for corn or whatever the heck it is. But instead of, you know, it's just the way the government works. So they tell you that, they tell the world that we've had a bumper crop, then they change that and say, it's slightly below average, or it's, you know, it's an average year. It wasn't an average year. I guarantee you, come about July, August, they're going to say, we got to readjust this again. It's not 74 bushels to the acre, 174 bushels of corn, and 38 bushels of beans to the acre. It's 73, and it's, whatever. And then the price will jump up, and everybody who has sold the majority of their grain, like myself, I got to sell it all because I just don't have the money to function here because of the droughts that we've had. But it is what it is, and we will get through it somehow and move on, and hopefully life will be good after we get through this mess. But yeah, they screw us there, and then they say, oh, hey, here, we're going to give you this money. Here's the number that we're going to give you. And in your mind, you've figured it out, and you're like, wow, I'm going to get a few dollars. And when it comes down to it, you ain't getting that. You're only going to get 85% of it. And it's just like everything else that you deal with the government. And like Andy was talking about with the people saying, well, 20% of your income is derived from subsidy. Well, I can tell you that that is an absolute flat out lie, right? I stopped going into the USDA office because you would sit in there for a week years ago. It was such a paperwork nightmare. I swore that I would never go in there again, but because we are, in such turbulent times right now with agriculture, if I want to stay in business, I think I'm actually going to have to start, taking advantage of some of the programs, because I did the cover crop program last fall through the soil conservation, and I went into the Farm Service Agency this year, and that's what I'm doing with the ECAP. That's how I know all this stuff, because I'm going to need every penny that I can get my hands on to stay in business, or it's lights out. The end. We're done. And I get to go drive truck or work on tractors or buy and sell vehicles, something. I'm not going to work for somebody else. I just can't do that. I mean, I could if I had to, but I just don't feel that I should do that. But anyway, whatever. It's neither here nor there. So I've done this stuff, and it's just like, it's no different than it was 15 years ago when I was in there before. They promise you a set amount of money, and you get the deposit in your bank account. It's $800. So I sign up 2,000 acres of hay and grain, and I get $800. Well, $800 doesn't excite me. Might excite some people, but it doesn't excite me. $800. I've lost $800 already this morning talking to you. But that's just the way it is. I mean, we go to bed at night and money is disappearing. It's just, whether it's the electric from your house, the bills that are coming in, the interest that gets at midnight, the interest that ticks over on the loans that you have, and all this other wonderful shit that you've got to deal with. But yeah, so the government does play its part against us. It really does. And we don't get millions of dollars in subsidies. I don't know anybody that does. I mean, the little bit of money that we do get when we do go in there, it's penance. When they promise you a certain amount of money, then they turn around and say, well, we're only going to give you 85%. Oh, and by the way, you have to do this, this, and this, which is going to cost you this, that, and the other thing. And before you know it, that 85% amount of money that they give you is down to about 20% of what they originally told you that it was going to be. And there you go. The end. Done. So what money do you get? You don't get anything. It's a waste of time. We do it to try to stay alive, and they use the information that you give them against us. And I've said that for years. If you tell them, hey, I've got 20,000 bushels of corn in storage, they will mark that down. And is it there? Did they do 20,000? Did they do 20,000? Or did they do like they did in Vietnam? Body counts. Hey, I killed one guy. Well, that's not good enough. You had to kill 25 at least, right? So I full-heartedly and honestly believe that that's what they do. And that was the government back in the 60s and early 70s with body counts. Oh, you didn't kill enough. You're not making it look like we're making progress here. So we'll just multiply your one guy by 15, and now it's 15 guys. Or you killed 2, now it's 25. You killed 3, now it's 43, or some number like that. And there were guys that came back from the war, and they're like, what are you talking about? It wasn't that, yeah, we lost a couple of guys. We killed maybe 4. It was like a 2-to-1. And now you're saying we killed 60 people? Where did they come from? I mean, that's the government for you. So they're not your friend. They are not your friend. They are not here to help. They're not going to fix anything. I think there's a lot of farmers that have a lot of faith in Donald Trump and what he's doing. But I lived through the first administration, and yeah, we had lower prices, input prices, and yes, we did make money, and things were looking like we were going to be prosperous for a decade or two before things could go to hell. But then we got, as Andy calls him, pudding brain, or I say the cadaver, in office, Joe Biden, and it went all to hell in 4 stinking years, like all to hell. I mean, I had bills paid and money saved. I have nothing, and I owe now after 4 years of Biden. So is Donald Trump going to get it done? Well, he's got to move pretty quickly because he's only got the House and the Senate for 2 years, and then some shenanigans will go on, and if they don't maintain that, well, I guess if AOC keeps standing up acting like a retard, then they might maintain the House, and who knows about the Senate. I don't know. I don't see anything good coming from the Democrat Party at all, other than we all want to be transgender and teach kids transgenderism and tell them that they need to be accepting of less than 1% of our population to the point where we celebrate homosexuality. How's this sound? Just keep to yourself, keep your pussy in your pants and your tits tucked away, and we don't have to worry about if you cut your dick off or any of the other stuff. And my language has now gone off the rails, so most of you have left already anyway. But we don't need to be teaching any of this in our public schools. We don't need to. We need to do reading, writing, math, social studies, science. What else is there? Maybe gymnastics or gym. You can do gym. We could teach archery and shooting. That would be good, so that it would be a reduction in the lack of respect of firearms. But that's not going to happen because, guns are bad. People do whatever they want, but guns are bad because they just jump out of your closet and go kill people. I mean, it's just a fact. We know that they have legs, and in the middle of the night they get up and jump into man's hands and then you're done. But but whatever. I think they need to teach gun safety in every school starting at first grade, kindergarten, first grade. Hey, this is a firearm. They exist in some people's homes and not in others, but this is how you handle them. They are very dangerous. You could kill your friend with it by accident if you handle them because you're too young to. You always do this under supervised, an adult supervision. When you get to about 10 years old, 8, 9, 10 years old, you could start using a firearm as long as your parents teach you or a skilled instructor teaches you how to handle and the proper safety protocols for each shotgun, rifle, or handgun. Now, I do have a little pet peeve, and I'm going to get off the subject here of the USDA and Farm Service Agency and all this other stuff, and that is gun safety. A friend of mine had a shotgun. It's a 12 gauge, and it's a Benelli. And he's like, "Hey, you want to try this gun?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll try the gun." And all right, fine. So a Remington 1100 or an 870, it's 870, 1100, twink, off you go. Life is good, ready to go. This Benelli, you can't load anything into the magazine unless you do some weird shit with a button on the side, and then there's another one that looks like it would allow you to pump it, but it doesn't. It makes it click and bang and do all sorts of other weird stuff. Okay? So if there was a zombie apocalypse and you needed to load this gun and you've never picked it up before, God bless you. You are not going to get that thing to load. I mean, even if you opened it up and dropped it in, it would fall down into the magazine area. It wouldn't go into the barrel. It is the most weirdest piece of shit I ever fired. They're expensive. So after 20 minutes of fiddling with this thing, I had a thought. Like, I've fired all kinds of weapons, from bolt actions to full autos, right? All of it. Bolt actions, automatics, pump action, falling block, trap door, you name it, I've fired it. This shotgun was such a complicated pain in my ass that it's like, I don't even want to shoot this thing. Give me my 870 back, or give me the 1100. I'll take that out into the field. I mean, the worst thing about 1100 is there's a button in where you load it up. It's a little silver thing. You got to kind of depress that before it allows you to put a shell into the magazine. But other than that, it's a safety. Cock it, safety, bang, you're ready to go. But this Benelli, there's a sequence of nonsense that you have to follow, and it's apparently it's on the CZ. It's probably every shotgun that's produced today. And I was thinking about Tim Waltz, Tampon Tim from Michigan. I think it's Michigan. And he had this mishap with a shotgun. Man, I guarantee you that shotgun was the same crappy Benelli that I was using, or that CZ that I shot. I guarantee you, because they're such a nightmare to get. It's like, okay, so bang, 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 you shoot, and then you got to go, oh, fuck, I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got to do the other thing. So when you fire your last round, the bolt stays open. So there's a button you got to push. Boom, that slams the bolt. Then underneath, in front of the trigger guard, there's this little stupid thing that you got to push that decocks it. Then you can load 2 rounds into your gun. Then you pull it back, you charge it. You're able to charge it. Then you have to in order to get the 3rd round in, you have to push that little thing again to get the 3rd round in, or it will not allow you to put the round in the magazine. How beautiful is that? No. Hated it. So Tim Waltz, even though I thought you were a total doofus, I feel for you, man. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you were dealing with. Those guns suck. They suck. I mean, I could shoot faster with a double-barrel 12-gauge shotgun than I could that semi-automatic. It's boom, boom, crack it open, 2 shells come out, one don't in a tube, crack it back, boom, boom, again. With this thing, it's boom, 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 I got 3 shots. Then I got to do this. Clunk, drop the bolt, click, decharge it, 1, 2, charge it, click again, and put the 3rd one in. What's the point? What is the freaking point of having a semi-automatic if it takes you 10 minutes to load the thing? Dumb. Some politician somewhere has probably designed that thing. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, have a great day. I'm going to work. I got to plant hay today, and then beans like next week.